gaming NFTs going beyond the hype is sort of the headline. Obviously, we're going to cover a bunch of stuff within that. Yes, if you have questions, I think we have a few questions we can drop in to the chat or drop into the panel that are already in the chat. But if you have specific questions, there's a good one here about adding NFT functions to games already in development. We could certainly deal with that sort of stuff. So let's wait for our panelists to arrive. As ever, we have a good selection of panelists in terms of at least their sort of their focus of business. I can say that because I wasn't involved with getting them at all. So whoever organised the panel, well done. So we'll have a few different perspectives, I think, on the NFT and blockchain gaming world. Now let's have a look. We're waiting for one more. Let me see if maybe Pascal is not here yet. Maybe he's going to tell later. Okay, I think we have enough to. Oh no, here he is. He's coming. Good. Okay. So while we're waiting, hi Pascal. So while we're waiting, shall we do some introductions? So if you can just talk a little bit about who you are and what you do, that would be fantastic. India, should we start with you?
Hi everyone. I'm India. I work at a law firm called Wiggin. We're one of the largest entertainment law firms in Europe, and I specifically work in the video games team. And we work with everyone from kind of AAA publishers and developers to indies. We also work with streamers and esports teams, so lots of video games experience. And prior to that, I worked at Miniclip, which is probably best known for 8-Ball Pool. It's the world's largest privately owned gaming website. And in terms of crypto stuff, I worked at Wirex, which is a cryptocurrency wallet and exchange. So yeah, that's me. Nice to meet you all.
I guess instead of saying not investment advice, you have to continually say not legal advice. I'm not your lawyer. I don't know what jurisdiction you're in. So no legal advice being given, just opinions. And then sort of seriously do be aware that sort of crypto laws are very different in different countries. So take that into consideration. Jason, you're wearing the VC hat. How are things with you?
Hey everybody. Things are good. Thanks, Jordan. John Jordan. Sorry.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Your last name. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We got that. I love that it's recorded, so everyone can watch that mistake multiple times. Yeah. So I'm Jason. I'm one of the founders of Konvoy Ventures. We are exclusively focused on gaming. We're an early stage venture fund. We manage about 105 million currently, and most notably for this conversation, we've been actively investing into this theme this year. And one of our investments is Axie Infinity. So I sit on the board of Axie. So that's been a fun position to be in. And so we can definitely talk about that on today's call. But yeah, thrilled to be here with you all, and looking forward to everyone's perspective.
Yes. Yeah, we had Alexander earlier on in the afternoon. So good to get another dose of Axie, and it's been interesting. You guys.
Well, sorry, you're stuck with me. He's smarter than I am. So sorry, you got me on this one.
But I guess it's sort of interesting. We had Bitcraft on the previous panel, and it's been interesting to see some of these sort of early stage investors get very into blockchain in quite a short period of time, and certainly Konvoy is one of those who's been very active. So good to have you. We had one of my old bosses, Scamantis. Now we've got the other one, Dragos. How's it going?
Hi guys. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. I'm Dragos, one of the co-founders of DappRadar. And yeah, as you said, we had Scrimantas earlier here. I'm just gonna say a few words about DappRadar. Maybe not everybody aware. Yep. So we are tracking decentralized applications. We have also launched like different products like on the portfolio tracking side, so everybody can see like their NFT kind of wallet and like what do they have in their wallets, what's the worth and so on. Like beside tracking dApps and writing tons of content about dApps and research and so on. I've co-founded DappRadar with Scrimantas back in 2018. Before that, we were working still in the gaming space. So yeah, we are super close to the gaming scene. So yeah, I mean, looking forward for the panel, and yeah, let's have a great time.
You may be not a formal early investor in Axie Infinity, but I think you were an early investor in Axie NFTs. I think you put it that way, can't you?
Definitely like an evangelist for sure. Like since the early days.
Good. Okay, moving on. Mark, let's go with you. Can you explain a little bit about what you do at Fridai, spelt in a confusing way to make you look that that's how you say it? You probably
No,
get that a lot. Sorry.
We do that. Like it's AI at the end because it's actually an artificial intelligence based solution, right? So it's a voice assistant for gamers. We started creating audio guides for games that really help gamers, like, you know, overcome challenges and all that. I also play Axie Infinity, so I wanted to kind of like join that up on the bandwagon. We're also running a guild there, so it's a lot of fun being engaged with the game. But on the startup side, so what we've been up to with Fridai is audio guides first. Then we went on to accessibility. So now we are making games more inclusive by providing voice control over games. And just very recently, we started working with streamers, dropping like these audio guides in the form of NFTs. So basically, they run campaigns, and whenever you as a gamer find, you know, one of the scenes that they, you know, play through in their own gameplay, and you take a screenshot and we recognize the screenshot, it's like fitting, then you get an audio guide NFT, like some stuff that the streamer said about that exact scene, that exact challenge, that exact boss, for example, in that game. It's kind of like similar to Eternal GG, right? So the guys who just raised from Mark Cuban and Coinbase, but they do streams. We only do audio, so we kind of like Clubhouse there. But yeah, sorry, it might have been longer, but thank you for having me here.
No, very, very good. It's just a good example there that NFTs aren't just simple pixel images, aren't even sort of game assets. They can be, you know, it's quite obviously a massive broad range of what an NFT can actually be, and we probably don't discuss the range of what NFTs can be as much as we should. And finally, we have Pascal. Want to explain what you do at Wondr?
Hey everyone. So I'm Pascal Leblanc, quite an early adopter in Bitcoin 2011, and this really got me, a tech crush, and led me to build and sell 3 businesses in the space. So mining software, rent and exchange, and more recently in May, Wondr Gaming acquired my NFT engine company. So now I'm head of NFT there. Wondr Gaming is a publicly listed company here in Canada that focuses on increasing gamers' engagement. So basically connecting media brands, media influencer networks with the gaming crowd. And one of the good conversions when it comes to these new technological advances is of course NFT. So we're kind of we're running that engine for non-crypto native folks to be able to be part of the exciting NFT space.
Cool, good. Thanks for the introductions. Let's kind of kick straight in. Dragos, let's kind of start with you, I guess, because you have you spend a lot of time looking at the data. Obviously, this year has been even for the sort of crypto space, fairly eye-opening sort of levels of growth we've seen from Axie and Splintlands and things like that. I mean, do you think we've sort of reached sort of peak NFT in terms of that sort of hype cycle, or is still NFTs as sort of this sort of slightly not properly understood kind of phenomenon? Have we still got ways to go yet, or are we starting to get beyond the hype now, or should we be expecting more hype as more sort of products and brands get involved?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. I think because we are like here since 2018 and we've seen different waves like since then, and that's also super easily visible in the rankings. If you look at like back 2-3 years ago, we had different waves with gambling, with high risk tabs, and so on. And now recently we have games. At the start of the year we had just NFTs, and now we can see that on DappRadar, like based on the visits and based on the traffic, like most of the users are super interested in games. So that's, let's say, the latest wave that we've seen. So I think each time the wave is bigger and bigger. So we can look at the data, and each time, like, you see bigger volume, you see more users joining the space and trying dApps and buying NFTs and so on. So I believe for now, like, we've seen a super high growth also with not just with games, but with profile picture NFTs and so on. And everybody was like FOMO, let's buy some profile pictures. I think probably some of them will disappear in the next not 2 months, sorry, in the next few months. But the projects that are super that they have utility, that they have a strong community and so on, I'm sure they will still be here. They will innovate, they will bring new things to the market, as we have seen in the past. Like, you always have like a lot of new projects joining the space during the hype. After that, like, you just have like maybe 20% of those that are still building and still remaining for the next hype. I'm not sure. I can't say if that's done for now, but I'm sure like next time, if it's gonna end now, it's gonna be higher and it's gonna be bigger, and we'll see more people. Like it happened historically, it's gonna happen again.
I was going to ask that actually, and you've reminded me. So maybe if anyone wants to jump in, does anyone have NFTs in their social feed? Is anyone doing that? I have Blanco's block party in mind, so I'll fess up first. Anyone else want to confess what if they're using NFTs? Anyone?
I am using it. I don't know if it's a cheat or not.
What you got?
So I got a mutant ape. That
Yeah.
we were like transformed, right? So okay, so I've joined this like NFT community club, which is I don't know if I'm supposed to like say it out loud here. Anyway, what they do is they have like this common fund where we invest together in NFTs, right? So like blue chip NFTs. So we like come together. So now we have a leaders fund thing where we own like 3 types of NFTs. We have a We Friends NFT, a Cool Cat, and we just recently purchased one of the mutant apes. And now I use that. Even though I only own fraction of it, I feel like I could use it. So it's like I'm there. So I'm like kind of like throwing it out there. It's like I don't like or own it per se, but I have access to it, which is like for me it's similar. And just want to like kind of like wrap the whole thing.
No, but that's sort of interesting. I mean, that is, I think, when we first looked at the technical sort of aspects of NFTs, no one thought that this was going to be a thing, and no one thought you were going to have these terrible moral choices about whether you could have a mutant that you sort of partially own. But I think it's sort of fascinating that these are that sort of activity is not anything technical, you know, in owning an NFT, in an NFT being out there, but it's sort of what people build around it, what the community builds around it, and it's sort of very interesting now that if probably the worst thing you can do in the crypto world is to have a NFT in your Twitter profile that you don't actually own, because that would be seen as sacrilegious, wouldn't it? If sorry, anyone else using NFTs in their social feeds?
I have a custom profile, but it contains an Axie as well. So if that
okay,
counts.
yeah, half there. Yeah. Do you own the Axie though, Dragos? Do you own that Axie?
Yes, I do.
That's okay then, right? Yeah, you're allowed. Okay, if no one else wants to go for it, we'll sort of continue. I mean, Pascal, I guess I'm guessing, could be wrong, but I'm guessing, where you are is you're sort of dealing with companies that sort of want to get into the hot areas now, NFTs. They probably necessarily don't have a great background knowledge into what these things are, but they're sort of wanting to get in there. What are those sort of conversations you have about, what they should be doing compared to what they probably think they could be doing, and how do you sort of balance that? Because I guess we're starting to see with around the hype sort of NFT projects that are clearly should never have been sort of created and sort of being just going onto the market because they can and no one cares less, and it's a bit embarrassing for everyone. So how do you sort of make sure sort of brands are doing the right thing with NFTs?
So what's interesting is a lot of the NFT projects right now, they lean their value creation on scarcity, and a lot of the crowds that they aim at are crypto native folks that are used to trading some cryptos, owning some cryptos, and they've had somewhat of a good ride this year in terms of crypto profits to kind of reinvest in the space. But some other figures, when we're picturing big brands or big known figures such as, let's say, John Cena, that released his NFT, a first NFT series, and kind of did a post-mortem of it and saying that it wasn't that much of a success for many reasons. These figures, they have different crowds that they appeal to, and most of them won't be crypto native, right? So it won't be kind of those crypto gains flowing into. So you need other, I would say, value creation pillars on that stool to make it, less wobbly, to make your campaign more success. And you need to kind of reduce as much as possible that crypto learning curves. Just the fact that you're owning that you have to set up a wallet, and then sometimes a good example of that is the MLB. They've released an NFT series on Wax chain, but in order to get the Wax chain, you need to buy Bitcoin, then get them in Ether, then swap them in Wax, and then buy your NFT. So it becomes quite a hurdle to these I would say 40 plus years old people that are baseball fan collectors, but it's just not accessible for them. So one of the angles that we kind of get some success with commercially is that we bring on to that kind of baseline fiat gateway for acquiring, buying, selling, with credit cards, with wires, and also a turnkey kind of custody solution. So their NFT could be, off the shelf, can be in a insured crypto custodian. So that's kind of valuable. And the more you think of it, let's say you'd buy a piece of art. If you look at it like, the old way, you buy a piece of art and you'd want your Mona Lisa to be, insured, right? So if you're the only one having the keys, it's kind of a huge risk and a little bit counterproductive for digital valuables. So those are like two, I would say, factors that really move the needle for these bigger brands that they know they have non-crypto native crowds.
Yeah, good point. I think insurance is something just in general in blockchain is gonna get a lot more important as the value of these sort of things goes up. I'm gonna sort of take a question that we've got in the Q&A. So if people who are watching have questions, please put them in. But I'm going to go to you, Jason. So obviously you're not a game developer, but I'm sure you see thousands of decks a year from game developers, and I'm sure as the year has gone on, you've seen sort of clear examples of here's a deck for a game I want to make, and here's the last page about NFTs, and that's probably the last 2 pages or something like that. So the question is, obviously it's always best to have NFTs, think about NFTs and integrate them from the beginning. But if game developers are sort of into sort of, I don't know, prototyping or some sort of production, is it just a terrible thing to just sort of shoehorn NFTs in there at the current time? Is that just going to be like a disaster for everyone? Or as an investor, could there be ways in which you would sort of go, well, actually that's not, obviously you started this game a year ago, but NFTs are a big thing, people like them, it's a good engagement mechanic. We could invest in a game that's not been ground up NFT sort of created.
Yeah, so I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, if you're looking at NFT adoption in existing titles, like have we seen that be successful versus let's say like NFT/crypto native games building from the ground up. I would say that generally speaking, 90+% of the projects I look at that are using NFTs are using it sort of as a guise for fundraising. And that is something that I am vehemently against, right? What a lot of the gaming community is having to reconcile at this point is that when you've opened yourself up to speculators, which is really what most people who own NFTs are. They're speculators. They're not actually buying that product because they enjoy it. They're speculating on it. That opens up your economy to a lot of things, and those are things that traditionally normal game studios, I'm just calling normal legacy game studios or traditional game studios, whatever term you want to use, haven't had to deal with at the same extent. And so to me, generally speaking, when I look at people trying to cram NFTs in, I ask just a very simple question, what's the primary goal? Usually, if they're dancing around and not giving me a clear answer, it is fundraising, and therefore I would say don't do that. That's a kind of a cheap mechanic. It's going to piss off your community down the road. But option 2, if they tell me, and these are the ones that I get excited about, if they say, hey, look, we think this is a community membership, kind of like a country club membership into our game. It opens and unlocks portals for us to do things, new experiences that historically weren't possible. And you can transfer that ownership to other players on your own volition. That is something I'm interested in. And that's what I get excited about. But truthfully, I haven't seen a lot of existing games do it well. I think there's so few doing it well. The vast majority of them out there, you're talking about seeing thousands. I've seen 150 player-in studios in the last 30 days. It's a massive cash grab. It's also a lot of developers kind of coming in that didn't find success in other genres like mobile, other platforms like mobile or console or PC, and they're like, oh, we're gonna find success here. And by the way, I forget on the panel who said it, like, most of these games are being built for kind of like crypto natives. That's not where I'm not interested in crypto natives. I'm interested in gamers. The population of gamers dwarfs crypto natives about 1,000, 100,000x, right? Like, and that's something like we're half the planet. So anyways, that's probably a more bearish and hotter take than you were expecting on this panel from someone who is finding, I'm extremely keen on this, but I think we're at a really crucial point in gaming right now. And a lot of people are making a lot of funding mistakes, and you're going to piss off a lot of players. And so I'm interested to see the 2022 backlash of the 2021 NFT hype cycle for games.
Yeah, I mean,
and if I can add something, John.
Yeah, go for it.
If I can jump in on on Jason's point here. Also, one thing that I've researched and I found interesting is different game genres will have different level of potential when it comes to adding NFTs. Like MMOs, RPG, like games that within the game you trade within players, they'll have better impacts than let's think of a single player game, a kind of The Witcher type of game. So it depends on the genre. They'll have the different impacts, and I would say that that would be kind of a baseline reference to kind of rate the genre and how they're impacted, in just kind of making a first screening for companies that are trying to NFT wash their fundraising. That's like where I would start. And even I publish that on my website, so they're able to see it.
India, I guess having said not legal advice, going to come to you not for some legal advice, but some legal opinion. I mean, in general terms, in the blockchain, when it comes to sort of one of the big debates, continues to be and has been sort of security tokens and sort of stuff. When it comes to NFTs, are there any sort of things that people, game developers or who are interested in doing this sort of stuff should be aware of? Are there any sort of obvious, broad brush things that you think people are maybe overlooking, or even in terms of sort of UK law, where do we stand on NFTs? Are they just digital items, or are they some more archaic sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So full disclosure, obviously I'll only be speaking from a UK perspective, and this is my own kind of personal opinion rather than any legal advice. But from what I understand, there's definitely some things that you should be keeping in mind from a legal perspective. So NFTs, they're not specifically regulated in the UK. All of the advice at the moment is around crypto assets generally, which means there's loads of uncertainty, and whether or not any NFTs can be caught by any kind of regulations depends on the characteristics or features of that token and the activities it performs. But broadly, I would say there's probably three main risks for NFTs. The first one being NFTs, like you're saying, being seen as securities tokens and falling into financial services or anti-money laundering regulation, because NFTs, they're so subjective in their value. There's lots of room for anonymity, so there's massive room for trade-based money laundering. Big likelihood it's going to be caught by AML regulations. And in terms of financial services, if an NFT is seen as like a regulated investment, like a share or a derivative, it's going to be subject to licensing requirements. The second legal issue I'd say probably is data protection. So lots of jurisdictions grant individuals rights over their data. So you can request that your personal data is removed, or to rectify any inaccuracies in your personal data. And say you've got an NFT that contains someone else's personal data, like it's their name or their image, and they request that it's taken down or deleted or corrected. But if it's on the blockchain and the blockchain's immutable, then that's not possible. So there's lots of potential data protection issues with NFTs. And I guess the third, and probably one of the most important things, I think, is intellectual property issues. I think from what I've seen, people aren't really aware what they're purchasing when they purchase NFTs. And it varies from token to token, but you'll expect when you're paying $69 million for Beeple's NFT that you get the right to distribute it, to copy it, to profit from its resale. But that's not always the case. And usually, unless it's expressly assigned, you don't get the copyright and stuff. And I think people don't realize that all they get is, sometimes it's just a personal use to look at something, or, make it your avatar on social media. You don't get to control what other people can and can't do with those NFTs. So those would be the 3 or 4 main legal points to consider: not getting caught by financial regulations, not getting caught by data protection, and knowing what you own when you're buying an NFT.
And I guess, as you point out, the range of NFTs can be so different from a CryptoPunk, which is basically like a static image. I mean, probably not going to get too caught up with legal issues to that, to something that could be, a moving image that changes over time and reveals new data and has has some sort of dividend mechanic built into it. Or you can imagine people coming up with these very sophisticated sort of things, and there's we call them all NFTs, but they're very different sort of digital kind of assets. I mean, Mark, with your sort of stuff, again, that's a different sort of asset, isn't it? I mean, that's being used, I guess, as a sort of a community engagement, directly a community engagement sort of asset. Obviously, it's on a blockchain, so it must have some sort of value attached to it, and the community might start valuing these more. But I don't know what stage you are at in your project, but have you started to see some of them becoming more valuable in terms of I don't know, kind of crypto value, or are they really just used as a very sort of utility sort of a kind of reward?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And so as a good startup, we're obviously iterating. So we're kind of like going through like different versions of the whole thing.
Okay.
We even we have started adding like rarity types or like rarities to all the like guides, right? So like only the first couple hundred people would get like the rare ones. That's like maybe like a longer audio file or something. That's like we can even like further personalize it. So everything is like very interesting in that space where we're building this right now. And then we also wanted to do like maybe everybody gets one, but that it like destroys the value on the side of the streamer. Obviously it makes them money, right? So it's like a new revenue source for them to kind of like, oh, I'm doing some streams anyway, so I just leave a couple tips and give it to these guys. They're gonna like NFT it, tokenize it, and then they're just gonna like through theirs, other people can listen to it. So what I feel like the scarcity aspect is definitely something that makes at least our users move for this to get like the audio files of these streamers, because it's like they have this celebrity effect. Like I really want to own some of the tips that this guy says, right? So even though you find the same kind of tips, or like you can't really say a lot of like magical things or like different things about like how to defeat bosses. It's not it's like you can read about those, but we kind of like wanted to see if like if a streamer says it, if it's like kind of like maybe even on the personal side, like their experience that's being captured, and do you want to like go and hunt that down in like a treasure hunt format where you're like, okay, so I'm gonna take the screenshot here and I'm gonna get it as an NFT, and then like I can sell this to other people in the marketplace because they might want to own it. So we are at a very early stage. So some of the things that I've just said we are kind of like building right now, but from like early beta testers that we like run this by, that was the feedback that we got.
I guess it sort of plays into at the moment we still sort of we see NFTs. Maybe it's me. See these things as very much as a lot of static images. Sort of communities are created around them. They go for very expensive sort of monetary value. But actually, maybe thinking about the NFT hype, we're kind of looking too high up here, and we should be looking much wider. And the fact that sort of NFTs become just an engagement mechanic for the entire user-generated content community, which is increasingly big. But effectively, anyone can become a creator. Anyone can kind of create an NFT. At the moment, it's expensive with minting and stuff. But do you think we should be looking much more broadly about how NFTs are something not that everyone can own, but everyone can create? I mean, Dragos, you're a creative sort of chap. You think about these things. I mean, how do you see that sort of NFT economy, kind of user-generated kind of thing, not just in games, but how do you see that playing out? Do you think that's something we'll all be doing, like our children will do artwork and it'll be an NFT and we'll send it to grandma or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think gaming NFTs are like they're like super obvious, and they make sense like by default. Like you don't need to think too much to kind of understand the concept. But yeah, I mean, anything can be NFT-fied, and like exactly what Mark explained earlier, like you can use it, and then you can kind of find super interesting use cases in creating NFTs from different. I mean, it doesn't, like, we can see like it's not necessarily gaming, and I'm kind of going a bit away, but we can see like Uniswap is NFT-fying like liquidity positions, and that's like a super nice concept again on how NFTs could be used. We can see Ethereum name service, like you can get domains as NFTs, and there are like so many other use cases, and kind of looking from the creative perspective. Definitely, I mean, as you said, at the moment on Ethereum, it's super expensive to create something, but if we look at on OpenSea, because they have the option of creating those gasless NFTs, I mean, they're not really minted on the blockchain, but you just have them on the platform. And if someone literally like buys that, then it's actually minted on the blockchain. Like you can see that people are just minting like maybe their drawings, maybe their paintings, like anybody can create an NFT super easily. And with platforms like Polygon or like even Wax, where like it's super cheap to mint NFTs, I think it's gonna become like similarly to going on Instagram and posting an image, or like a TikTok. Like you could do that with NFTs. I mean, why not? And I really think that that's gonna be the case. And imagine like Instagram platform, like similar to Instagram, where anything can be an NFT, and anybody can build a platform that can support those NFTs. Like the possibilities are endless when the content is created as an NFT.
I guess the interesting thing there is we kind of assume that when these things are created, there would be any transaction, the percentage would go back to the creator, which is generally the case in the current situation. And then you can kind of see people, you can kind of get that whole blockchain thing where, it may not be famous at the time, but the first Instagram from some person who 10 years down the line, or won't be Instagram, but who has 100 million followers, that sort of rarity thing sort of kicks back and it all sort of feeds in. A slightly different question for you, actually, Jason. I'm sorry, going to kind of pigeon you with the kind of pigeonhole you with the VC thing. If you're seeing, I'm sure you are still seeing DEX and stuff, investment opportunities that don't involve blockchain, because we don't all live in the crazy blockchain world. But do you think at some point, it becomes increasingly difficult for startups in the game space who are not at least thinking about these things to sort of get funded? Because it seems like at the moment we have a massive rush of venture money towards blockchain. Obviously, we have So Rare and we've had Dapper and other things sort of coming up. Is that just the way it's going to be, and everyone's going to have a blockchain slide, even if you laugh at it and go no?
Yeah, no, I think that you've seen this time and time again, right? Like 7-8 years ago was anything with the word artificial intelligence on it, everyone got super excited about it. A couple years back, there was like the UGC craze, like anything user generated content, like anything got funded under the sun. I think there was a blockchain hype cycle as well. We've gone through winter and now we're back. And so like generally my advice to founders is don't chase terms or don't chase terminologies. There's some investors posting on Twitter, hey, if you have a crypto metaverse in social gaming, I'll fund you right now, right? Like that kind of stuff is going to exist no matter what. Like everyone's excited about the upside. It's also hard to ignore numbers like we've seen with, the total trading volume of NFTs over the last couple of months. Like any opportunistic investor, which, I am one of them, and I'm sure that everyone on this call is personally as well, looks at those things and can't ignore them, right? With that said, I think just to simplify your life, get down to a core value prop of why you're doing something for your community, right? Like if you really truly believe that deploying NFTs in your game is going to enhance, player value, enhance player retention, enhance player, community buy-in, do it. If you don't think it will, don't do it, right? I think we're going to get into a spot where, the players are renegotiating the contract between studios right now. And I think blockchain technology is fueling a lot of that renegotiation, which is interesting. So hopefully that gives an answer to your question, but
yeah.
If you're not looking at blockchain, don't worry. There's still 3 billion gamers and the vast majority of them have nothing to do with blockchain gaming right now. So don't worry about it. You're okay.
Good. John, can I add something to that?
Go for it.
So I really feel what Jason is saying, and like many game studios, game developers I talk to, is like I feel like before you even want to like create an NFT element to your game, you need like very good game economy designers, and I just can't find like any like courses or anyone who I can say about like, oh, you're really good at this, right? So I think even the guys at Axie Infinity, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just figured it out as they were going and as they were doing it, right? So but if you think about it, like now that like all the SLP burnings and everything that they are seeing, they're constantly adjusting the economy, and I just feel like there has to be a person maybe in the future, and even working with some of the next like blockchain gaming startups or companies whose specific job is to design the economy, and I feel like that's kind of gonna be a new kind of job that's just gonna pop up, and a lot of people want to do it because I think it's a lot of fun, because obviously we looked at the economic aspect of whatever even though it's like user generated, and we were like, okay, so it's up to the streamer how much money they want to sell it for, etc. But it's just like, how do you burn it? Is it deflationary? Like, how much is this gonna cost? And that then like when people go to exchanges and they exchange it to ETH, like what's that gonna look like? So I think there's this aspect that's kind of like missing from a lot of startups, at least developers that I've spoken to, about like, you really got to understand the economy, man. Like this is not gonna work without that. It's it's you gotta do it. It's not coding. It's also coding, of course, and a lot of developers gonna like hate me for this, but economy right now is super important in those games, and that's what I feel like it has to be a focus in some of the startups in order to get funded, in order to like actually build like a successful game that's based on NFTs.
Mark's totally right. Game economy is everything, right? You know, and it comes to looking at, you know, how you're going to deploy these things and not totally sour and ruin your economy. Like introducing these variables has made it immensely more complex, right? And, you know, this is one of my favorite things about the Axie team and why we chose to back them was they're very open with their community. They're saying, hey, look, we're figuring this out, you know, step A, step B, we're going to adjust as we go. And I think that type of transparency resonates really well with their community. You know, something that's a slight tangent to this topic, John, is I'm actually curious to see what the other panelists think about this, which is something that our internal office is kicking around quite a bit, is we're seeing a negotiation of players expecting more openness, not only from games that they're playing, but from their actual economies. And if you're seeing the kind of underlines of what's going on with China right now, we're finding it very fascinating to see that, you know, they keep shutting down and closing and trying to limit their player base and what they can do, you know, from time spent in games to, you know, what you can do with your assets in games. Just curious if everyone's thoughts on this panel, like, you know, do you think that games and NFTs are leading the charge of expecting player bases to not only expect more from their games companies, but also their actual national sovereignties they're under, right? Because I'll tell you, I do, right? And I think that NFTs is a nightmare to the CCP. And, you know, personally, I'm a huge fan of that. I think, you know, closed economies always lose. So anyways, I would love to throw that bomb into this question, but I think it's really, really topical right now, given what we're seeing happen globally.
If anyone wants to jump in.
I'm happy to jump in there.
Jump in there, go on.
That's pretty interesting. Especially your use case of China. I spent a good amount of time living there, and it definitely shaped.
I was born in Taiwan, so just a total
amazing.
So I was born in Taiwan
for like 10 years.
Love
I
it.
mean, just like watching the TV, and you know, you'd be talking, someone on the news would be talking about Tibet, and everything would just go completely blank. And then, yeah, I think me and many other gamers in the world, transparency is key, and that's one of the USPs of blockchain technology, isn't it? I think, you know, open economies, especially in games, is definitely something that's going to draw people in.
Yeah, and I guess it's interesting, Jason, even on your sort of narrower point. I mean, I do think there is a big sort of geopolitical kind of thing going on with blockchain that will be another kind of conference, I suppose. But I think what we're seeing with blockchain games, you know, even if the EAs and the Activisions aren't going to, you know, be sort of publishing NFT games, you know, next week, you know, you do kind of feel that sort of cultural sort of change is clearly going to impact people. So people are going to, I mean, that's the interesting kind of a question, I suppose, where if gamers start to go, well, I want to own things in my game. I don't really care about the blockchain bit, but I want to own things in my game. And there's other companies, even if they could run in their own private blockchains, maybe that's what they have to do. It's not as good as Ethereum to us in that sort of space, but the users will in fact demand that, and they want those experiences. And if you can't give them, well, I'll you know, probably harder to get people off of FIFA into So Rare, but this is the opportunity for some quite big disruption, isn't it? I think for those communities start moving. So.
John, can
I go for it?
Yeah.
Can I add something on that question? Like, in my point of view, what's going to have like the most impact on the short term, like the next kind of a milestone coming for the gaming and NFT space, is how gamers, when they go and buy stuff, how they're going to look at that purchase. Because, you know, right now they go in and they buy these, you know, these points. And, you know, the monetization method right now is kind of these skins, like these in-game aesthetics. So they go in and they buy $50 of V-Bucks in Fortnite. And from these V-Bucks, they don't expect to never see the color of that money again. And, you know, they're going to have skins. These skins they're going to be somewhat disposable because the relevance window of that particular skin is shrinking, everlessly shrinking. But with NFTs, what happens is they can look at this and more as a purchasing an asset instead of disposing of that money. And I think this is going to be a good driver for having these micro transactions be a little less micro. A average skin is about $3 USD in Fortnite and League of Legends, the two #1 games. So maybe with that new, what I see kind of changing, that new gear coming in the machine is that you're going to be able to expect some resale value out of what you're putting, and you're more comfortable in buying a $100 piece of something if someone would buy it for $70, because that kind of a disposable piece is only $30. And something interesting that we've seen, like the first step in that is like the grandfather of that concept is a friend of mine that started a Montreal-based company called Opskins, and it will allow you to resell your in-game aesthetics in Counter-Strike through the now closed Steam Store exchange. So that's kind of an interesting view in what the future could be, and I think that's going to be the pivotal piece in kind of expanding the market size of gaming. It won't be necessarily because there's more gamers that are going to be there. Is that new mechanism will increase the average spend of a gamer because of that resale potential.
Mm-hmm. I think we're definitely going to move. We're going to move from sort of spending how much money is spent in games to how much money is traded in game economies, which is quite a sort of fundamental change. But we are coming to the end. We're actually a bit over time anyways. But I'll sort of ask all sort of a closing question. I mean, we started off with beyond the hype. I mean, where do we think, if you can be as succinct as possible, where do we think NFTs are going? Let's put a time frame on it. We're sort of coming. Well, we've got 3 months to the end of the year. I mean, how do you think that's going to progress on the game side? Are we going to have this kind of I don't know, this sort of adoption where everyone's going, yeah, NFTs, bring them on? Are we going to have kickback? What's the balance between the two? Dragos, do you want to take us over your view of the next sort of 3 months or so?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've already seen like some slowdown in the past weeks, I would say. I think it's also like super correlated with the market in general. We have seen like a lot of changes in the crypto prices and so on. And I think, yeah, even if NFTs, I think they're like a bit more, I mean, that's one of the reasons like CryptoPunks, I guess they're like super popular these days. And I really see them as well, like as some sort of store of value. And that's, yeah, I mean, people have different opinions, but we can definitely look at NFTs as like they're a bit less affected by the volatility and so on. Okay. But still, people are not necessarily that they do not want to buy NFTs more, but I'm sure they are thinking a bit more when they take decisions. So yeah, I would say it's super closely related to what's gonna happen with the crypto market in general. I think the interest is still high, and again, we can see that in our traffic as well and so on. But people are thinking a bit more. We had this huge influx of NFT projects. People were spending left and right, and now I guess I can see a bit of people are kind of thinking twice before they invest in something. So yeah, I would say a bit of slowdown, but it all depends on also how the market goes.
I guess you do kind of find that when everyone's flipping, it sort of reaches a sort of bubble pops, and then obviously it takes momentum out of the market. Mark, how do you see the next 3 months or so?
Absolutely. So I just recently read a book about like blockchain, and where they kind of like figured out like how do you like assess a trend or innovation, and what they said is like you compare the current technology to where it's going or what you think is innovative, right? And you turn it around. So like would you consider, like if you already had electric cars everywhere, would you consider switching to like fossil fuel cars where that destroy the planet and stuff like that? So obviously there would be a step back, right? So they did it with like Bitcoin and blockchain, where if you had decentralized everything, like would you move to a system where you give your money to banks and then they just like spread out and do all these kind of things? And from my perspective is like, if you ever played a game that let you own your items in it, and you spend money and you have this way of like trading it afterwards, etc., you would never go back to a game that's like, oh, let me just spend $10,000 on this and never see that again, as Dragos said just pointed out. So I feel like in the next 3 months, there is a lot of awareness going on right now, and people are, like spending money left and right. I can see that as well. And there's going to be like, more like understanding, do I really want to invest in this project? Can I just check out the economy of this game, for example? Like, oh, is it deflationary? Do they also spend money? Is it dependent on new user growth, or do they have like retention mechanics coming in? So a lot of people are getting like aware of this, so they might not spend as much as quick. So there's going to be a slowdown from my perspective as well, especially after looking at the success of Axie. But I'm bullish on this, and I just really hope that this is going to happen for everyone.
Good. India, do you want to give us your view, or any do you think any legal stuff's going to change? Probably not in the next 3 months or so, I suppose.
No, I think the Law Commission's doing a consultation at the moment, and I think it's due to come out at the end of the year, so maybe in the next couple of months. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled if anyone else is interested in that. Probably not. But yeah, from the data I saw, I think and it's just, again, one article saying that the bubble popped around May, and mainly the transactions concerning NFTs now, it's not so much about digital art, but more about NFTs in the digital metaverse. So that's probably where I would see NFTs going, not in the next 3 to 6 months, but probably in the next 10 to 20 years towards building that Ready Player One style digital metaverse. And that's probably where I would invest my money if I was looking to invest in NFTs.
Not investment advice, not legal advice. You're breaking all the rules now.
Oh God, don't look to me for investment advice. We're terrible at it.
A good point. We got through the panel without mentioning the metaverse, so that was good you mentioned that. Yeah, I do think if something people, if they're interested, check out the Sandbox, which is, I think, it's not a metaverse, but it's the first sort of level of an open sort of blockchain sort of landscape where I think interesting stuff's going to get built. So that's sort of a metaverse to a degree. Jason, how do you see it playing out with your investment hat on?
Yeah, I would say over the next couple of months, you're going to see the pressure build on these projects that are trading north of $1 billion on nothing more than a trailer. Yeah. I think that is crazy, like absolutely insane. Like the fact that exists is insane to me. I hope that doesn't exist, because a lot of people are going to lose money on that. And so, what I think is going to happen, I think the market will correct. I think that you will start to see the ones that actually launch real games based off of this hype. And then the revenue numbers won't quite match what they're trading at today. And then they'll come back down to, and it's sort of unfair to those teams, to be honest with you, because it's like, are you supposed to build a game that is worth $5 billion upon launch? I mean, that's not fair to anybody, right? Like, I couldn't do that. So I think you're going to see prices come down and trade at something relative to a normal revenue multiple eventually. But I mean, I'm really excited for the winners. There's going to be a few winners here, and there's going to be a lot of losers. That'd be my kind of like just in mobile, like right when we launched mobile games, right? It's just being the same thing.
It's sort of, I guess, everyone inherently or explicitly say we're the next Axie, so everyone's getting priced on. There's going to be 100 next Axes, and clearly there's only going to be like 2 sort of equivalent. So yeah, good cautious advice there. Thank you. And Pascal, do you want to close us out with your view?
Yeah, for sure. My view is going to be, as a crypto expert, more crypto leaned on crypto, but also somewhat preaching for the groundwork we're doing at Wondr. So currently the way the market is woven, and all these values they come up, is driven by people that ramp through Bitcoin and Ether and kind of go and buy these NFTs. And currently, it's at a phase, and if we compare to like that ICO bubble that popped, same thing. It was a phase that people were, had a lot of disposable crypto gains to put in, and that was only due because Bitcoin was rising. Because when Bitcoin rise, every other crypto. So it's just following right now. Dragos said it's more quiet, the market. That's because Bitcoin's trading sideways. So the fact that the only way to get to that market, and all these guys, they have these crypto gains or crypto losses due to Bitcoin moving. I think it's possible there might be a slight correction or a longer period of Bitcoin kind of being stable, and that will kind of trigger once again that bubble to pop, and the short circuit to kind of making NFT more robust is to bring a direct bridge to fiat to NFTs. And from the fiat side, what's interesting is with the pandemic, all these stocks, they've been kind of off the roof. Every real estate investment, they've been off the roofs. You can, have mortgages at almost zero. So the fiat disposable gains are there, but there's no kind of there's no plumbing that taps in NFT yet without being a crypto enthusiast. So that's something that we're putting up front, and I believe that's kind of will make that second more solid wave between the winners and the losers, as Jason outlined it. So that's how I see it. It's a lot financial and kind of macro. And right now, I still think Bitcoin is king, even in driving the NFT enthusiasm. Cool.
Good. Lovely. Well, thank you very much to all our panelists for all their opinions and non-advice in particular. Thanks to India, Jason, Dragos, Mark, and Pascal. Obviously, find them all on LinkedIn and Twitter and continue the conversation.